So I want to thank Kuda Dude for giving us this really good topic. I love it. This is one that a lot of writers struggle with. So whether you're writing a story, like for a book, a short story, a video game, it really doesn't matter. What is the topic? What is the question?
How to write a good ending.
How to write a good ending. Exactly. Because everyone loves to write their beginnings. Everyone likes to have the screen slowly fade, thunder start to come up, them talking about it was the best of times, the worst of times, how, the Dark Kingdom has taken over the Light Kingdom or whatever, and then title screen. Everybody loves doing that. But endings, good endings. Those can be challenging. And they're challenging because you are required to wrap everything up, to have some sort of closure. And that's what we're going to talk about. How to wrap up that closure.
Yeah.
May I start? Or do you want to start?
Go for it.
So it's really important to have some kind of a plan. I know there's probably a lot of you out there that what we would consider pantsers. People who write by the seat of their pants. They just write and they see where the story goes. Like George R. Martin in Game of Thrones, he says, I'm like a gardener. I plant seeds and I water them and I see where they go. And that's a good method. But when you get to your ending, you need to have some kind of a plan, something. And that plan has to bring closure to your story. Think of it like this, and this is used a lot in writing in general. The beginning of your story is the old status quo. Old status quo being how things were at the time. Whether it be like it's a time where, kings always choose their succession through, their firstborn or their firstborn son or whatever. And then that status quo is somehow shaken up by some kind of disaster. And it doesn't have to be, when I say disaster, it doesn't have to be like, the dark nights or the skies break open. The disaster is anything that challenges and or shatters the old status quo.
It's some sort of conflict or an event.
A shakeup. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a shakeup, right.
And then your story is ups and downs, the try, win, fail cycle, all those little story bits that we've talked about.
How do you deal with what's going on? Intertwining big events, world events with smaller personal events. Hey, your best friend is going to be getting married.
Yeah.
That's a that's a small event as compared to the war between the two kingdoms.
Right, exactly. All your little character story arcs, like you have the blacksmith character who's searching for, their spouse and child. You have a you have like the bard who wants to, marry the princess of a far off land. You have the alchemist who just wants to get like the perfect formula for lobster bisque, something like that.
Right.
Something like that. But you get all these little things, and then what you get to at the end is the climax of your story, which is the climactic moment in which that main story that's brought about by the destruction of the old status quo, my hand's off screen, the old status quo. The climax is when that culminates into whatever's going to happen, the defeat of the big bad, the final boss, the resolution, whatever. And then you have the new status quo. And that's where you start to close the story for your ending, that new status quo. That's it. That is the basic of it. Go ahead.
So you're talking about a general plan.
That's general. Yes.
And that's great. Keep that in mind. Going from old status quo to new status quo. But a real question is, well, how do I do this?
Okay.
How do I get in here and do this? And there's two schools of thought. Okay. Steele brought up the seat of your pants method.
Pantsers.
And they just write, and they're very organic, and they just move through the story as it happens.
Yep.
And then they close it, right? Pantsers, and I can't speak for experience with a pantser because I'm in the other camp. I'm an outliner.
Planner.
So I
Plotter.
outline my story from start, middle to finish. And I'm going to talk about that
Go for it, honey.
because I'm most familiar with
Yeah.
that. So how do you get to your ending? Easy. You make your outline. This is going on when my story starts. And then the middle of the outline is moving through the different parts of my story. And then the end of it is wrapping up all those stories. Wrap them up. And looking at things in an outline form, you can see it's down there on paper, so to speak. You can see if you've got all of your plots tied up, all of your loose ends tied up or not. And if you don't, then you go back and you revise and you each of your subplots, each of your plot lines has a resolution.
Exactly.
And it's all about resolution. So at the end of your story is the final resolution.
Even if you are a pantser and not a plotter, you're going to want to tie up all your loose ends. You're going to want to make sure that every single story thread that you've been weaving by the seat of your pants has some kind of a resolution. You have to. Or you have to let the reader know that there's no way that's ever going to get resolved. And it can be done through something like an NPC piece of dialogue or a piece of narrative. Like, let's say there's a character that you're looking for, and that character turned up missing. And at the end of the story, that character's younger sibling is now looking and flying around the mountains and looking for their older sister. I think you guys know where I'm going with this. And they never find her. They're just looking for that character. You know, that's Magus looking for Scala at the end of Chrono Trigger. You know, if Chrono Cross had never come out, honestly, we never would have known what happened to Scala.
Right.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
That thread ends with, and Magus looks for Scala. So you can do that. You could have two people talking to each other. You know, it's like, hey, whatever happened to Bob? I don't know. Bob rode off with all the gold, you know, after we saved the town, and we've never seen Bob again. So when you're reaching those conclusions for your stories, if you have one that you're never going to end, just let the reader/player know. And at that point, you're fine. You're forgiven for that. Yeah. So as Teal was saying, make sure you plan it out. Have a list of each one of your stories. And each time you close one of those story arcs, even if it's something minor, make sure that you jot down, at this point in my game, this story arc, this story is closed.
Yeah.
And then at the end of your game, if you have anything that's still open, use the denouement, denouement being the falling action after your climax, to resolve it.
That's it.
That's it. And that'll do it. Oh, thank you so much, Tron, for a 1-tier sub. They've subscribed for 26 months. Here you go, Tron.
All right.
This is for you. Ooh, woo.
Ooh, woo.
We know you love it. We know you love it. We know you love it. You're so into it. So that is how you rise. That's how you rise. That is how you write an ending of your story. Now, what the meat of it is, that's up to you. You're the developer. You're the story writer. Don't leave anything hanging.
You can have as many subplots going on as you can manage.
Absolutely.
There's no limit on that. As long as you are managing it, you're on top of it, you keep it organized. You start off the subplot, you go through it, and then you end it. You're fine.
Absolutely.
You can have 20 subplots.
You can have 20, you can have 30, you can have 100 if each one of those subplots are related to a side quest. You can do as many, as Teal said, as you can handle, but make sure they get resolved. Now, if it's a side quest, it's okay for it to never be resolved. That's fine, because it's a side quest. We're not talking about those. We're talking about actual stories, like stories of, a Jarl, stories of, a settlement owner, stories of a best friend. Those are the things. Those are the stories. New Vegas. New Vegas was really good because New Vegas's epilogue contains closure for every one of your companion stories and every one of the factions. So
Mm-hmm.
by the time you get to the end of New Vegas, you know where everyone who has been a part of the courier's life, where it ends. And that's what you
Yeah,
want. That's good. That's good.
that's exactly what you want.
Yeah. They do not have to be happy endings.
That's true. They don't.
That's right. Endings do not have to be happy. They just have to be
You
there.
can have unhappy endings, but as long as there's an ending, you're good.
Yeah. Bittersweet is a beautiful thing. It really is. Not
Mhm.
only does it make great chocolate, but it also makes for great endings. You can have a bittersweet ending.
Hmm. And your story will probably stand out a lot better too if you don't have your typical happy ending.
Yes. And as Chad is
Yeah.
saying, Tron is saying endings don't have to be happy, but that it should always feel earned. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're in a ending should feel like something that the player had to do in order to reach it. You know,
Mhm.
here's the challenge. For a reader, reaching the ending of a book is reading it, going through each of the pages and digesting each of the words from the author. For a player, reaching the ending is playing the game. Whatever the challenges
Yeah.
are, the challenges aren't relevant.
Mhm.
The challenges for ending a story could be as simple as going along the critical path, or it could be as complex as getting, 100 tokens or 100 coins or whatever. It's
Mhm.
but it's earned, and
Yeah, it's always earned, and that's a good point, Tron. Your ending should always feel earned.
in the characters.
Mhm.
Now, if a character earns an ending, the amount of effort they put into it does not need to be the amount of effort of the ending. Look at Delita in Final Fantasy Tactics. Delita did
Mhm.
not deserve to marry Ophelia. He didn't deserve it. He was a shithead. Really, Ramza was the hero, and yet Delita becomes the king consort. I know the two kill each other, but that's not relevant. He becomes the king he's the one history remembers as the true hero. So he didn't really put forth the effort into becoming that. Arguably so. But he
Mhm.
gets the reward. So he put in something, he got a whole bunch. All right, let's look at Ramza, the exact opposite. Ramza sacrifices everything in the world,
Mhm.
almost losing his sister. He saves the world. He becomes a heretic and he's chased out of the kingdom. So the amount of effort a character puts into something does not have to equal the magnitude of the reward. Bittersweet ending.
Bittersweet ending, yeah. And your characters that you have your side stories with don't have to all be human or hominoid.
No, not at all.
An animal. How about a journey of a lost dog?
Yeah.
A character has a dog, and because of a big world event, right? The volcano erupted. The dog gets separated from the owner, and so the side story is the dog being reunited with the owner.
There you go. And that could be as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me. So yeah, these are all good things. Black Rose is asking, would a romance be a side story? That's your decision, not our decision.
But yes, a romance can be a side story.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It can be a side story. It can be a main story. It can be part of the character arcs of the two people involved. It's how much import you want to put it into it. So when people ask, hey, can this be a side story? Can this be a side story? The answer is yes. You, the developer, get to decide that. So there it is.
And you could also decide as a developer, does the romance succeed or does it fail?
Or is it dependent totally on the player? You get to decide that as well. In Dragon Quest XI Definitive Edition, who the Luminary ends up with is literally a choice you give. You tell someone, I want to be with Gemma, I want to be with Veronica, I want to be with Serena, etc., Jade, yeah. These are all choices you get to make.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. Hello Santoru, welcome to the stream. And he says, what about a cliffhanger? As we said earlier, cliffhangers are fine as long as the player knows that. Now, if you're going to do a cliffhanger that leads into another story, it's a really good idea to have some kind of a let's continue or etc. Like Assassin's Creed 1 has a really good cliffhanger.
Okay, yeah, it does.
For both the assassin for Altair and for Desmond. At the end of Assassin's Creed 1, spoiler alert, Desmond is rescued by the assassins from the Templars, and he's taken
Mhm.
to their place where he'll be using the Animus machine in the second, et cetera games to go through Enzio's story. It's
Yes.
a cliffhanger, but it's a cliffhanger that leads to a following game. So a
Mhm.
cliffhanger for a cliffhanger's sake that is never picked up again, has zero chance of ever having any kind of resolution, and is there just to mess with the players. No, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, that's actually not very good writing,
Yeah, because
to be honest with you.
at that point,
Just having a cliffhanger there.
you're jerking your writer, your reader slash player.
Mhm.
All right,
Yeah.
let's see. I think we're good. Oh, Tron does even says if the entire ending is a cliffhanger, it does have the potential to make the player or viewer feel like they've been cheated. Thank you for making it much more succinct than our rambling asses. That's basically it. You're making them feel cheated, and you do not want your players to feel cheated.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
this was a really good topic. I feel
Yes, it was.
I feel like we've given you guys good advice, but we'd like to hear in the comments section, have we missed anything? Let us know. We'll be sure to address it. We want to hear your thoughts. Is there anything related to writing an ending to achieving story closure that we said that you don't agree with or that we didn't say? Let us know. We'd like to hear.
And I just want to point out that I don't want to give a how to do this step 1, step 2, step 3 with these kind of topics, because that's limiting. That's putting your effort, your work into a box.
Correct. And that's not what we do here.
And these kind of creative endeavors, whether you're developing a video game or just writing the story for one, right,
Right?
should be very organic, and you should have as much freedom as I hit the mic. Freedom is possible.
I agree.
Your process.
I agree. That's what we teach here. We teach theory, we teach fundamentals, we don't teach how to.
Mhm.
All right. Well, if you like what you saw, lay the smack down the like button below, subscribe to our channel, consider supporting us on Patreon, connect with us over Facebook, Twitter, Discord, and we will see you in the next video.
See you next time.